on we go. Well, sometimes things just fall into your lap. Behind me is a 2007 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited CRD. So that means it's a 3-liter Mercedes turbo diesel in a all-wheel drive Jeep. 4-wheel drive. I mean, it still has low and everything, but it's full-time 4-wheel drive. This came upon me through a friend of mine, and I just couldn't say no for the price. I only paid $500 for this Jeep. Now, it's not perfect, of course. I'll show you some of the issues with it momentarily, but it does run and drive and does everything it's supposed to do. And these, in the United States at least, were only available for 2006 and 2007 model year with the 3-liter CRD. This is different than the new Eco Diesels. This is a 3-liter OM642 Mercedes V6, the same as what's in Sprinter vans that you see all around town. Still using this engine to this day, so it's a tried and true engine. The current Eco Diesel is a Fiat V&M combination. Totally different engine. The only thing they share is that it's V6 and it's 3-liter. This is a German V6 3-liter diesel. So the story behind this Jeep is that it lived up in northern Maine at a summer home and was really not driven in the winter. And it was garaged throughout the winter and whenever the owner wasn't there using it. When that owner was 82, he passed away, and for the past 2 years it's been driven by the lovely woman who passed it on to me. Let me show you a couple of things that are wrong with it. So at first glance, everything about this Jeep looks really, really nice. I can say that for New Hampshire, it is 100% rust-free. Of course, you have some elderly folk type driving issues here and there, but it is kept very clean. And like I said, not really driven in the winter, so it is a rust-free Jeep. But if we come around this side, the last snowstorm was a little tricky, unfortunately. So it's got some body damage. The hood is barely affected, so I think I'll be able to save that. I need a new fender, probably gonna need a new bumper cover, but for now I'm just gonna try and hammer that one out. Definitely a headlight. So those are on order. As we go back, I think this was from the same incident. This is just barely hanging off. I don't think that's going to be an issue. Should be able to still use it. But overall, despite the body damage, a very, very nice vehicle. Let's hop inside and see what it's all about. So you can see as we open up, this is a pretty nice place to be. So like I said, 2007 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited. We have dual zone automatic climate control. We have heated seats, stability control, adjustable pedals. We have a multi-disc, I believe it's a 6-disc, yes it is. Sound system that's original with Boston acoustic speakers. Of course, you get the wood trim, auto-dimming rear mirror, auto-dimming and heated rear view mirrors, cruise control, of course, and all Jeeps of this era came with Quadra Drive 2, which is a full-time 4-wheel drive system, but you do have 4-low. It does have a traditional transfer case. It's just always engaged with a center differential. At least that's my understanding. Sunroof, and just an interior that's in incredibly good condition. Just doesn't seem like it was really used much. Only done 134,000 miles. Call it almost 135. Now, despite the body damage, there's some other issues with this car, which is why the woman wanted to part with it. But it runs well. It runs quietly. It's currently in limp mode, which is why you have the combination of this light here and the check engine light. And the reason it's in limp mode, well, is because of the following. Like I said, I picked this up from a mechanic friend of mine, and these are the issues that he found. I can confirm there's low power because it's in limp mode. It's limited to 3,000 RPM. The P0700 probably is not going to be a problem. It seems to be shifting fine. There may have been coffee spilled on this shifter at some point, but I have a feeling we clear that code and we're not going to have an issue. Glow plug 5, I'm not worried about. The rest of the glow plugs work. But P1270, P1270 intake manifold runner, that is a really common issue with these OM642 Mercedes engines. And what that is these have what are called swirl flaps on the intake. And they're moved by an electronic servo, and it has to do with the difference between low boost situations and high boost situations, how they want the air entering the cylinders. So those are probably carboned up. And it is, as it says here, remove turbo, replace clips, possibly bad clips, etc., possibly the motor. It's a bear of a job. However, I think I have a workaround for that, which we'll get to later. And then noise and belt drive water pump is very bad. That's a given, and not that big of a deal to replace. But I could hear that right away, and I'm not worried about it. So, it's got issues. It's in limp mode. It won't kick down. I mean, it'll still drive fine, but it has no power at all. Everything else in this vehicle works. Digital climate works, cruise control works, radio works, everything works wonderfully. Power seats, heated seats. It's just a really nice place to be. So I think we may have to hang on to this for a while. So here we are, driving impressions on the road. It's surprisingly nice. You know, I've never been a huge fan of this chassis of the Grand Cherokee. It's called the WK chassis. Ran from 2005 to 2010. But it's actually, it was a decent piece of engineering, just let down by some not so great parts, interior parts, and with the gas engines, those were bad, and so on. So it got a bad reputation. But this Jeep was a complete redesign from the ZJ, I believe it was, in front of it, the Grand Cherokee that ran from 99 to 2005. Yeah. And it has independent front suspension. It's got linked coil rear suspension. It's really, really comfortable. It kind of reminds me of my old Range Rover, which was a 95 Range Rover. It doesn't feel anything like except for the engine, it doesn't feel anything like a comparable Mercedes. A 2007 Mercedes ML, for example, way nicer than this. But I mean, the equipment level is really nice. The drive is really nice. It's very quiet. It's a nice engine. So I think I really like this. Might have to hang on to it for a while. At the very least, we're gonna fix it up, do the fender, do some of the minor body work. You know, the plastic bumpers, I don't know if I'm gonna replace. We might just kind of send them home and make them fit. If I like it a lot, maybe a small lift kit's in its future. But first things first, we got to fix the engine, and I know how to fix it. The plan is to get a resistor, put it into the sensor that moves the intake swirl flaps, and it just tricks the ECM into thinking that motor is still working. It's not an emissions delete or an emissions, cheat or anything like that. These swirl things are for power, not necessarily for emissions. So this still has a diesel particulate filter on it, and it'll be, perfectly legal with this dongle in there. That way I don't have to rip the top of the motor apart. If I did want to rip the top of the motor apart, it's quite a process. And I would encourage anybody who's interested to look that up. It's all over YouTube. I'm not going to get into it. But you can look up OM642 swirl flaps cleaning or something like that, or top intake carbon buildup, or any of those searches will show you what happens to these 642 motors, because they're really common 300,000-400,000 mile workhorse motors in the Sprinter vans. So it's a well-documented issue. It is a lot of labor to fix, but there's this easier solution, which of course I'll show you guys when I do that. So I'm just waiting for some parts to come in. Right now I'm driving it from mom and dad's to my house. It's great. It's a really nice driving vehicle, so I'm super happy with it, and it may stay at Highlandshire for a while. So anyways, guys, on to the next one. Wanted to let you guys see this. I am confident in saying that I have most definitely bought the cheapest diesel Grand Cherokee in the United States, and it was a heck of a deal. So here we are, guys. Today I want to get the turbo intake pipe off, and that should give me access to the plug that we need to put the resistor in. That's due coming from Amazon in an hour or so, so hopefully we can test that out today. Test it out, put the turbo pipe back on, bring the car back in, and then I want to take off the fender. So let's get started. So here's the mess of engine that this OM642 is, and I know it looks like a disaster, and it kind of is. I mean, could it have been packaged better? I think so. Mercedes maybe can get ahead of themselves sometimes. I wouldn't be surprised if the engineering team on this project did a lot of things because they could, but everything is like really tight within the engine envelope. There's nothing hanging off, but that makes the engine envelope really hard to work on. So it's got a valley mounted turbocharger. This is your pressure side coming out, then has this big muffler here, that black piece going over, and that keeps the turbo quiet, goes into the intercooler, comes back out somewhere. Down here, it goes back up into the engine, into the intakes. Fuel filter's buried down there. It's just, a lot of stuff has to move to do even the easiest things on here, which is kind of annoying. I do like this. These are foam, and I think they're there mainly just to keep it quiet, to take down your injection noise. I think that's really smart. Not enough people do that with diesels. So without further ado, let's get into just popping some clamps off and see if we can't get to the pieces we need to get to. Tucker, what are you doing? Are you here with me? Can you sit? Tucker, can you sit? Good, sit. Come on. Sit. Big. Oh, you're too excited. You're too excited. You're too excited to do everything. Anyway, Tucker's here with us today. Just running around, doing what dogs do. All right, so it looks like the first steps here are going to be pretty simple. We already have a 10 mil missing, so that's good and bad, I guess. It's going to make it easy to get this pipe off. I think I'm going to do this one. No, I'm going to regret that. I'm going to do this one, I think. It's hard to say which one's better to slide the pipe off of the airbox or slide the pipe out of the boot. And before you ask me, I don't know why this has got so much oil and gunk all over it. I think maybe it had something to do with the previous diagnosis. Or it could just be splatter from filling it. Not really sure. All right, that's super duper loose. Too much so. And let's see, right back here, what do we got? There it is. Fairly easy to get to. I think this has been off before. Yeah, it's pretty loose, barely tight. Okay. Oh yeah, that's definitely been off. Now there's little orange seals in these, which are kind of notorious I mean, it's not in terrible shape. We'll just clean it and stick it back on. I've seen them ripped. I've seen all sorts of issues with those. A big part of these cars' problem is this PCV. I mean, this thing just pumps oil into the turbocharger, which then spools it up and then pumps it all the way through the intercooler and back into the engine. And you get the gook and the soot and the gunk that clogs up the swirl flaps. So that's part of that problem. While we're there, it's a little bit of turbo play. I wouldn't call it bad, but it's not good. More than I would hope for at 130,000 miles. But, you know, you can't win them all. So here's the plug in question. Can you guys see it? Right there. So let's get that off of there. And we'll be ready for our resistor. It's that easy. So you can see, guys, that plugs out. That was super duper easy. Everything's slightly wiped off. We need to cross the 2 center pins there when our resistor arrives. So in the meantime, I'm going to check 2 things. I need to turn the key, make sure my VNT actuator is still working. And secondly, I'm going to take at least some of the connectors to get this fender off since my resistor's still not here yet. All right, well, we're definitely making progress. It's pretty easy to open these up. There's a reason they're quiet. We already mentioned that. Look at this bag of insulation. And this is what causes rust. These get waterlogged. This is literally fiberglass insulation inside, and that's factory. And I'm gonna put it back in because this one doesn't have any rust, and I'm gonna undercoat it. But for people who don't undercoat, and when these get ripped open, that's what holds water. But yeah, so there's a 10 mil right there. Another one right here under the cowl, which I should be able to get with a wrench. And that's it. Fender comes right off. It's off, but think you could really get away with it? Nope. Can't get away with it in New Hampshire. No matter how nice something seems to be, there's always rust somewhere. Luckily, the rocker's still intact, but anyway, there it is. So the only thing we need to repair in here is this mount for the fender got pushed over. So we're just gonna push that back. I guess I could do it now. I was gonna wait till I got the new fender in, but just gonna push that back. I don't really see anything else that we need to do. I don't see any other bends or anything. The door wasn't impacted. These are just from opening and closing it. Some scuffs. We already know the hood was impacted just a little, but once we get the new fender on, we'll see if we have to address that or if we can just leave it. Gotta see if my Amazon delivery has come, and then we can try that resistor. Well, still waiting on Amazon, so I figured might as well get underneath it and really give it a good inspection. I know we found some rust in that fender, so hopefully there's not much else. All right, so starting at the beginning, subframe looks really nice. Everything looks really nice. This is aluminum, but everything looks good. Tiny bit of surface rust, as expected. Definitely got some... Oh, it's been replaced, I think. That's why that radiator hose has coolant on it. It's been replaced. I don't know if those are oil cooler hoses or AC hoses. I'm not really sure right there, but they're okay. Tiny bit of surface rust. A lot of oil down here, but that's probably because we're near the intercooler. Radiator support. Minor rust. But I think that's fine. Yeah, good, but oily. And this has not been undercoated. You can see way up in there, it looks like we have a new serpentine belt tensioner. Can you guys see that? Yeah, see the shiny aluminum? And then I think to the right of it is the water pump. So it actually won't be that bad to get at once I remove the, that is called the turbo muffler, that big plastic box. Okay, moving on. Let's go further back here. Oh yeah, that's really, really nice. So these are unibody vehicles. And for all of you sticklers out there that are going to say, oh no, there's rust on the spot welds. As far as New Hampshire goes, guys, this is rust-free. This is as rust-free as you're going to get, because if you see those spot weld rusts, okay, that little surface rust around the spot welds, that happens on like day 2 in New Hampshire. I've seen trucks brand new at the dealership coming off, and you're looking up at them on the truck, and the entire axle pumpkin is covered in rust, and all these little spot welds have surface rust on them. That's just the climate we live in, and the combination of salt on the roads. That's what happens. This is the rust I knew about when we took that fender off, right there. So those 2 bolts are supposed to hold the fender on. At least one of them is spinning, the captive nut, and the other one I haven't tried because it was rusted off the fender. So we might just tack weld that fender on instead of screwing with those. Don't know yet. So continuing to move back, we do have an oil leak. Let's see. So that's just coming out of the drain plug. No big deal. Not tightened correctly. Wrong washer or something like that. This is your DPF. Okay. Temperature / pressure sensors, I think they are, on either side of the DPF. We move back even further. Yeah, tiny bit of surface rust, but nothing I'm worried about. The lines are in excellent condition. More surface rust. Now this is where they really go. And this is in excellent shape, guys, for New England. So I'm just gonna layer this up with New Hampshire oil undercoating, and it'll be great for many years to come. Got no delamination happening anywhere. That's good. I could hear this. I had a feeling. Yeah, this flex joint is gonzo. That's definitely leaking. So we'll have to do something about that. Ooh, these mounts. Those have been replaced. See these rubber mounts right here? Definitely new. Figure out why this is hanging. I guess, I'm not really sure. Doesn't seem like it really wants to go back up either. It's been hanging like that for a long time, I think. This cord, I don't know what the previous owner was powering, but that's just a household extension cord, which went from the battery all the way to the rear. How's this rocker? You see a little bit of rust over there, but nothing bad. Do we have that same fender issue? No. This fender's in much better condition up in there. Let me see if I can get you guys a better angle. There. So there's a little rust behind it, but that's better than the other side. Okay, moving back. Fuel tank, all good. Rear axle, very nice. Trailing arms, very nice. All the link arms are very nice. This is another place where you get a lot of rust, is up in this rear shelf. I'm totally happy with all that. Again, guys, this is not rusty where I come from. There's rust there, of course. I'm not trying to hide that from anybody, but you have to understand this is not considered a rusty vehicle. Spare tire, pretty gnarly, but good enough. And then the other place we see a lot of rust is at the very end of the frame rails here. Perfectly solid. Same thing, tow bar, perfectly solid. So awesome. That is great, great, great result. So that came out, and let's see, will it just, yeah, I think it'll go right back in. It might be slightly bent somewhere further up in the pipe, but we're just gonna have to bend it back. And we don't really have too much work to do here. Really, really minor body rust right there. All right. We also have new brakes. Very, very recent brakes, if not new. I think we determined those were at all 4 corners. Yeah. Let's check the front. No, not as new as the rears, but still very recent, I'd say. So, how about up there? Any rust? Nope, I'm happy with that. So there you have it, guys. I mean, this thing is really, really solid. And the reality of it is, the 4Runner, my beloved 4Runner, is not. We've patched lots of frame. We've got holes in the rockers. Heat shields are falling off. We had to put a new tow bar on the rear. It's just common for Toyotas of that era around here to rot out, and it did, but I fixed it. It's also got 308,000 miles on it, which is nothing for a Toyota, don't get me wrong. But honestly, when this is repaired, I think it'll be slightly more reliable for the really long-term journeys and stuff, especially if I were to send Bree off to work in it. You know, some days she works an hour drive away. It depends on her work location. So she'd also be much more comfortable in this than the 4Runner. It's just quieter and nicer and heated seats and all that stuff. So I think it's probably going to stay. But we won't know for sure until we drive it a little more, if we like it. So I guess while Amazon's coming, I'll take it back down. There's nothing else I want to do under here except maybe tighten that oil drain plug. And we'll get that resistor here soon enough. What do you think, Tucker? You think it'll work for you? Huh? What do you think? You want to come down? You can come down if you want. You ready to go home? Amazon's at the house with our stuff. All right, guys, just got back from the house. Amazon came. This is what we were waiting for. So supposedly, that's all we need. Just one of these resistors. So there it is, guys. That's all there is to it. I'm going to put some electrical tape around it and call it good. You see the scale there, it's quite small. And then we'll try and fire it up and see if limp mode is gone. All right, guys, moment of truth. Let's see if this trick worked. We're looking for that light to go away when it's running. It looks like it already did. Yep. I expect the check engine light to still be on. I have other codes, but can we get above 3,000 RPM? Oh yeah. Ha! It worked! It's gonna be drivable. Awesome. Alright guys, I know this probably looks terrible, it's dark, but I had to take it for a test drive. And it's fixed for sure. I mean, I cleared the codes. I'm curious what other codes are gonna come back, because it had a transmission code, and it had a code for the glow plug. It also says service tire pressure system. I just put air in the tire, so I might just need to reset that. But anyway, I'm excited to actually hit the throttle in this thing and see what it's about. I've not driven this engine before. I've driven eco diesels, and I've ridden in Sprinters that have this engine, but you're talking a lot more weight and stuff. So anyway, we're about to hop on the road here and we'll see what it's all about. Let's see if it'll accelerate normally. Oh yeah. Wow. She's not slow. That is a very, very pleasant driving experience. I am really happy with that. Accelerates really, really nice. It's not loud. And that's what the whole fender is missing right now. So I'm super happy. I think this is a awesome find. And hey, when the body parts come in, it'll be back on the road in no time. Almost sounds like I have a small boost leak. But overall, it's running pretty good. Good stuff, guys. I'll get back to you next time.